There's something happening right now that every single American needs to know about. A silent revolution. One that isn't being talked about enough on the news, and it's not a theory. It's already underway. Imagine a country where working hard and playing by the rules doesn't guarantee a decent life, where owning a home, affording health care, and retiring comfortably seem like distant dreams. That, my friends, is the reality facing millions of Americans today. This is about the slow, agonizing death of the American middle class. We've all seen the movies, robots taking over, humans becoming obsolete, but here's the thing, that science fiction trope is becoming less fiction and more, well, reality. And it's not just factory workers or truck drivers who should be worried. We're talking accountants, lawyers, even doctors. Why pay a team of lawyers when an AI can do it faster and cheaper? Why have a radiologist when an algorithm can do it more accurately? This is happening right now. Companies are automating to cut costs and boost efficiency. But what about the human cost? Millions of middle-class workers are about to find themselves out of a job. Let's talk about a dirty little secret, one that corporations and politicians don't want you to know for decades. Wages for working Americans have remained stagnant. That's right, while CEO pay has skyrocketed and the stock market has reached record highs, the average worker has seen their purchasing power dwindle. Remember that whole American dream thing? The one where if you worked hard you could afford a house, a car, a family? Well, that dream is turning into a nightmare, thanks to the ever-widening gap between productivity and wages. Workers are producing more than ever before, yet their paychecks aren't keeping pace. It's like running on a treadmill. You're putting in the effort, but you're not getting anywhere. And to add insult to injury, while wages remain stagnant, the cost of everything else, housing, healthcare, education, continues to skyrocket. This is the squeeze, folks, and the American middle class is caught right in the middle. It's a recipe for disaster, and frankly, it's a national disgrace. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tariffs? That sounds boring. But trust me on this one, folks, because tariffs are anything but boring when they're picking your pocket clean. You see, tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods, and while they might sound good in theory, protecting American jobs, sticking it to other countries, in reality, they're nothing more than a stealth tax on the American consumer, especially the middle class. Think about everything you buy: clothes, electronics, groceries. Now imagine having to pay more for all of those things, not because of inflation, but because of some government policy designed to win votes. That's what tariffs are doing. They're making everything more expensive, and guess who's left footing the bill? The middle class, already struggling with stagnant wages and rising costs, is now being hit with a double whammy of higher prices thanks to these tariffs. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. It's not helping anyone, and it's only making things worse. Drowning in debt. The middle-class debt trap. Let's talk about another elephant in the room, one that's so big it's practically bursting out the seams. Household debt. Americans are drowning in debt: credit card debt, student loan debt, auto loan debt, you name it, we owe it. And while some debt can be manageable, even necessary, the sheer amount of debt that middle-class families are carrying is simply unsustainable. Think about it. You're working your tail off just to make ends meet, but a huge chunk of your paycheck is going towards interest payments on debt. That's money that could be going towards savings, retirement, or even just a little bit of breathing room. This debt crisis is a ticking time bomb, and when it explodes, and it will explode, it's going to have devastating consequences for the middle class. It's a recipe for financial ruin, and it's only a matter of time before the whole house of cards comes crashing down. The healthcare horror show. Let's talk about a uniquely American nightmare: the healthcare system. In a country as wealthy as ours, it's frankly obscene that people have to choose between putting food on the table and seeing a doctor. But that's the reality for millions of Americans, especially those in the middle class. Deductibles are skyrocketing, premiums are through the roof, and even with insurance, a single medical emergency can bankrupt a family. It's a system designed to benefit insurance companies and pharmaceutical giants, not patients. The middle class is caught in a vicious cycle. They work hard, pay their taxes, and yet they're one illness away from financial ruin. It's a moral stain on our country, and it's high time we demand better. $400 to disaster living on the edge. Have you ever actually sat down and asked yourself, could I handle a sudden, unexpected expense of $400? Because for a shocking number of Americans, the answer is a resounding no. We're talking car repairs, a trip to the ER, a broken appliance, the kind of everyday emergencies that can completely derail the finances of millions of middle-class families. This isn't about poor financial planning. It's about living paycheck to paycheck, about having no margin for error in a system that's designed to keep you trapped in a cycle of debt and financial instability. The middle class is one unexpected expense away from disaster, and that's not just a statistic, it's a national crisis. The great housing heist locked out of the dream. Remember that whole American dream thing we talked about earlier? Well, a big part of that dream was owning a home. But for millennials and Gen Z, that dream is quickly turning into a pipe dream, thanks to skyrocketing housing costs and stagnant wages. In many cities, owning a home is simply out of reach for the average person, and even renting has become a game of financial roulette. The middle class is being priced out of home ownership, and that's a recipe for disaster. Working hard, staying poor, the minimum wage myth. Let's talk about another uncomfortable truth. The minimum wage in this country is a joke. It's not a living wage, and it hasn't been for a very long time. People are working full-time jobs, sometimes multiple jobs, and they're still struggling to afford basic necessities. This isn't about laziness. It's about a system that's rigged against the working class. A system that prioritizes corporate profits over the well-being of its citizens. The student loan shackles debt for a future that doesn't exist. We've all heard the stories: young people drowning in student loan debt, unable to buy homes, start families, or even afford basic necessities. The cost of higher education has spiraled out of control, and the middle class is bearing the brunt of it. Student loan debt is a crisis, plain and simple. It's crippling an entire generation, and it's time we addressed it. The disappearing workforce. Where did everyone go? Have you noticed that there are more and more help wanted signs popping up everywhere? That's because the American workforce is shrinking, and it's not because people don't want to work. It's because they're burnt out, disillusioned, and frankly, they're not seeing the rewards for their labor. The middle class is shrinking, and the workforce is shrinking along with it. This is a trend that should concern us all. Suburban struggle. Poverty comes home. Poverty isn't just an inner-city problem anymore. It's spreading to the suburbs as more and more families struggle to keep up with the rising cost of living. The middle class is shrinking, and even those who once felt secure are finding themselves on shaky ground. The spending trap, living beyond our means. We live in a consumerist society, constantly bombarded with messages telling us to buy, buy, buy. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of our labor, when it comes at the expense of our financial well-being, it becomes a problem. The middle class is falling into a spending trap, living beyond their means and racking up debt to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. The gap between the rich and the poor is widening, and the middle class is caught in the middle. Income inequality is a serious problem, and it's only getting worse. For many Americans, owning a car is essential, not a luxury. But with the rising cost of new and used cars, as well as repairs, many middle-class families are finding themselves priced out of car ownership. Remember those Friday night dinners out with the family, or those casual lunches with friends? Well, for many middle-class families, those simple pleasures are becoming a distant memory, as the rising cost of food and dining out makes it increasingly difficult to justify. The American middle class is in crisis, there's no other way to put it, but it's not too late to turn things around. We need to demand better from our elected officials. We need to hold corporations accountable, and we need to start having honest conversations about the challenges facing our country. This isn't about class warfare, it's about preserving a way of life, about ensuring that the American dream remains attainable for all, not just a select few. It's time to fight for the future of the middle class before it's too late. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, and here's to the next.